Hi, so this is going to be a quick Revit tutorial on how to create a house. We're going to create a house through some common Revit commands, shortcuts, and I think this video will be a quick introduction guide to sort of grasping some Revit language and some knowledge. And yeah, let's get started. So when we want to create a new Revit project, we're going to go to Models and select New. And we'll be encountered with this Construction Template tab, or Template tab in general. And these templates are sort of like palettes, let's say, of families. In this case, families being like some sort of three-dimensional CAD block, like furniture, columns, doors, windows. It's not much to think of at the current stage. Usually I just go with this default construction template. Since I just want to model a simple house, I can just select this template over here. And there's a lot of templates like that come along with Revit. You can fool around with them and see what families they provide, but usually I just go with this default, and we can just simply press OK when we want to just start this project, and then it will just take us to the main interface of Revit over here. So now we are in the main interface of Revit. In the top is our quick access toolbar where we can access our views, section lines, dimensions, text, usually quick commands by just pressing those buttons. Over here is also our toolbar. That is sort of the meat of what makes our project, from modeling to annotations. Over here is our properties panel. Similar to Rhino, we can see the data information of, let's say, an element. This is where like our parameters are set in Revit, as well as our views when we want to model. Over here is going to be our project browser. Project browser essentially is like a layers panel in Adobe Illustrator, but in this case it's a layers panel of different views, whether it be in section, the east elevations, north elevations, south elevations, floor plans, the 3D view itself, even the sheets, which we'll get into later, maybe in the next video. So what I want to do first is usually to set up my file in the beginning to double check if I'm working in meters, because that's how I usually work, preferably. I'm just used to Rhino and working in meters when I'm modeling. So to do that, we're going to type in UN. It immediately does a shortcut when you type in UN. As you can see, this is in centimeters and millimeters, and it also, depending on the template, as I mentioned earlier, the measurements, but we can always change that over here in the units section. So the distance is centimeters, length is in millimeters. I do not want to work in those measurements, so I'm going to change that in meters. And in my display, I sort of want to see some 2 decimal places. When I'm also working in length, I also want to change it to meters. You can fool around with those units and preferably what you want to model. As you can see, it immediately changed to meters format. And in my floor plans and 3D view, for some reason, always starts at level 0, but I always misunderstand that. So I'm just going to rename this level 2. Would you like to rename corresponding views? Yes. As you can see here, whatever you do in any certain view will always translate in all views, in all viewports. I think that's one common efficient thing about Revit, is that one thing, if you do something in an east elevation view, it's going to happen in 3D view, it's going to happen in floor plan view. It's an amazing way to model, given its efficiency. I want to use my plan though to sort of help me model, but when I select my plan in the project browser, my level 1 plan, it just has its own separate tabs. But to sort of get rid of that, you sort of want to have multiple viewports and models. So what I do is I tile my windows, and a shortcut for that is to type WT with your keyboard, and it will tile whatever active tabs you have at the current moment, which was my level 1 and my 3D view. I can also add new viewports by, let's say, I want my elevation view at the current moment. I'm going to sort of drag this tab over here and put it in the bottom, if I can just get it there. And yeah, you have these 3 viewports now that can help you model your project, and you can sort of go in between these viewports to see your project at full extent. Finally, going to start modeling. I have my level 1 and my 3D viewports active. So as you can see here in the architecture tool tab, we're going to select the wall tool, We can do that by also doing a shortcut typing WA. We can either draw it manually by creating a rectangle or by creating a line. We're just going to create a 7 meter by, let's say, 10 meter box. So you can also type in your measurements, 7 meters, and then press enter. What I like about Revit, it also locks, snaps really great. There's a lot of guidelines to it, so you won't get lost. So we have our 7 meters by 7 meters by 10 meters box at the current moment. And as you can see, whatever happens in plan view happens in 3D view. So that happens between all views, whether you model, whether you draw, which is an efficient way to sort of do your studio projects nicely. So that's really a nice thing. You can select what wall type you want. Over here, as mentioned earlier, we have these things called templates. Templates sort of provide different types of walling because walls are sort of considered families in some cases. So I can change my thickness to like maybe a 300 millimeter concrete wall. I'll go with that, changing this. And you can also create your own thickness of walls in Revit. I also want to change my view. Usually I don't like seeing the details when I model. It gets distracting. So over here are my views to change. I like this view. It sort of reminds me of Arctic mode in Rhino, but much more cleaner and much more less overwhelming version of it. I'm also going to change that in my level 1 view. As you can see, we have like this box. Walls are really nice in Revit. Unfortunately, unlike Rhino, you have to go in Revit to sort of change your thickness. So what I do is I sort of duplicate the wall that I'm currently using. Let's say I want an 8-inch exterior wall. I'm going to create a new family out of it. Exterior wall. And let's go to edit structure. And then I want to change my thickness to that 8-inch as I mentioned. Okay. Apply. Okay. So this wall over here on this side is now 8 inches, but my other walls are still 300 millimeters, just like what the family I used earlier. But I want to change it to that 8-inch exterior wall. To sort of select multiple walls, you want to hold Control Shift and then left click, not just walls itself, but other elements within your project. Yeah, I'm gonna change it over here. So everything's like 8 inches. If I want like a weird wall, let's say, I can edit the profile on my wall. Let's say I want a slant in my wall. I'm just playing with these commands to sort of show you Revit stuff. So I sort of want this sort of slant, this wall opening. With Revit, you can trim your elements like walls, your floorboards, and that's sort of how you can get that profile. Trimming in Revit is kind of the opposite in Rhino. So they're over here in the mod file tools section. I want to sort of select this sort of specific trim / extend single element tool. There's different types of trims. In trimming in Revit, you sort of want to keep what you want, what line you want to maintain in your model. So as in Rhino, you want to set your boundaries. I want to set this as my boundary because I want to take this away. So I sort of keep the line over there. I want to keep this side of the wall, and then I sort of want to just delete this line over here. And then when we go to the 3D viewport, we sort of see this sort of nice wall opening, but I'm just going to keep it simple. I just want a simple box. So now we have like this sort of space here for our first floor, the 7 meter by 10 meter first floor. Yeah, we want to sort of change the heights for that to sort of be attached to the level 2 of our project itself. You can change the height over here to that, but an easier way is to sort of select everything. And over here in our properties panel, we want to sort of go to the top constraint panel over here. And what that means, it sort of sets a constraint of the wall height of this these walls that I've selected. So I want to set my top constraint to a level 2, and it would immediately go connect to the level 2 floor / level. If I want this to go more higher, it's always gonna be connected to level 2. In the beginning it was unconnected, so you don't always have to connect it. If you want to have varying heights of, let's say, your project, you can just have every unconnected wall over here and just play with its height with its unconnected top constraint and just fool around and all that. It's actually not exactly 10 or box, so I kind of want to edit a bit. So as you can see in level 1, I'm sort of just moving my space itself and just make sure it's like 10. So now that's 7 by 10. To sort of orbit your model, I forgot to go through that. You want to hold shift and right click, and you're just gonna, you can orbit your model freely in that space. Yeah. So now I want to create my space at level 2. So I'm gonna access that viewport via the project browser menu over here at level 2 by double clicking it, or I can just double click the symbol over here in the 3D view plan that's labeled level 2, and it will immediately take me to my level 2 viewport. So we currently have our underlay settings on, so we can see what's going on in level 1, which are just the walls. That you can turn off in the underlay settings over here in the properties tab over here to none. But I like keeping it on sometimes because of the fact that it can help me refer to sort of the measurements of my space at level 2 and in accordance to different levels. So we're just going to keep it on for now because it is a helpful tool. So I'm going to create my walls for level 2 at the current moment. Change my walls to the 8-inch exterior wall. I'm going to use a rectangular draw tool and just create a 7 by 10 wall like what we did earlier. It's sort of hard to see because of that elevation marker. We'll just change it after. Changing the views to coarse to hidden line once again. This is not a 7 by 10. I also forgot to mention that the measurements of your wall can also be based by its center line, by exterior line, and by its interior line. So you got to be careful of that when you sort of want to be a stickler with your measurements, let's say. You'll see what I mean. So let's actually turn off the underlay settings off for now. As you can see, it's sort of referring to the center lines earlier on. This case now, moving our witness lines, these small dots, now it's referring to the exterior length. So I'm just left clicking those, and I just want this to be 10. And I want this side to be 7. So we gotta check this side out. Moving my witness lines. So this is now 7. So now let's actually check our level 1 floor plan over here in this viewport if it's actually the 7 by 10. No. Now it's referring to the exterior wall witness lines. Yes, this is 7.4. Wow. So yeah, we now have that fixed. I'm going to turn my underlay settings on again in the level 2 floor plan. I don't know why I did not do that. I have to press apply. As you can see, it's sort of referencing the lines of your walls. As I mentioned, I think that's what's so helpful about underlays, so that you can reference certain lines and certain edges, whether you want to offset from a certain level. This is like 2.2 offset from its interior wall. I sort of want to move my witness line to its exterior wall, and I want to offset it maybe like 2 meters. You got to be careful because it also tampers with the length of your wall itself. So I'm actually going to undo. I'm going to select everything so it doesn't move everything. So this is going to go 2. Now everything moves. Actually, I forgot to do my witness line. Oops. Make sure you select everything so everything is offset at 2 meters. I'm going to select everything and offset this part by 4. I actually want to create another level to sort of determine all the wall heights for level 2. So level 3 in this case would just be our roof later on, or maybe just another level of like maybe another bedroom or another unit, but in this case later in this tutorial we'll use it as a roof. But anyways, I'm going to create another level, and to do that we want to go to the architecture tab. Actually, we want to go to an elevation view in this project browser first. It can be any elevation, doesn't have to be east. I just chose east because I just chose it. We go to the architecture tool tab, and we go to this thing called datum, and above datum you see level, or you can type in LL. This sets a new level. I'm just gonna flip this symbol over here by pressing this check mark, sort of align it as well. And I have this datum set, and you'll see why I need it, because it has to refer to a floor plan. So by doing that, I would go to architecture. Actually, I would go to view, and then I would go to plan views, floor plan, reflected ceiling plan, structural plan, area plan. What we want is a floor plan. So a reflected ceiling plan is practically a plan cut, but you're looking up, and a structural plan is a cut that's below, slightly below a floor plan, so you can see like what's going on between the floorboards, like the beams, the HVAC. But the area plan is also just like getting the areas of specific bedrooms. So I'm just gonna concentrate on the floor plan. Sorry if I was just yapping about that. Now you can just see the level 3 datum that we're gonna refer our floor plan to. We're gonna press OK, and now we have a level 3 in our project browser. So we're gonna go back to our 3D view, or we can just go to our elevation view over here, and I'm going to select all these walls, even the walls behind, by control shifting. And over here in the top constraint panel, in the properties panel, we go to up to level 3. So what that does, like earlier on I showed you kind of a bit, whenever I move my level 3 datum, let's say between heights, everything is going to be at a fixed height because it's connected to the level 3 floor plan. So I'm just going to keep it at 8, but it's sort of an efficient way to sort of have everything at one level if you want it that way, and we want it that way in this case when we're creating our house. Yeah, so now we're back in our 3D view. I just moved my sort of labelings to the side to sort of make my modeling much more cleaner, since these labels were getting in the way, and I can do that by going to one of my elevation views and moving them to the side. Anyways, as you can see in our 3D view, we don't have any floors at all, and that is a bad thing. We do not have floors. We can't have a house without floors. So I'm going to go back to my level 1 view, and I'm going to go to my architecture tool tab. Similar in creating this sort of box wall, I'm going to go to my floor build tool, and I'm going to create another boundary line with like a rectangle. If you're really a stickler with the measurements, you can obviously fix your measurements, and you can also change the properties of your floor, like its thickness and its material, by editing its type, similar to your walls. I'm not really going to cover that right now. Now it kind of gets a bit more complicated when you want to do floors in between spaces. You have to use the trim tool like I introduced when I was creating some sort of wall profile earlier on this tutorial. So we're still going to create a rectangle using the floor boundary edit boundary tool. So I'm going to select that corner to this corner, and I don't want this space here. Let's say, actually, maybe I don't want this space right over here. I'm actually going to keep this space. Maybe that's like a balcony that I want to have in the later tutorial, but I don't want this space over here. So what I did earlier was use the trim tool, and we're going to use that trim tool as well to sort of get rid of this sort of space. So I'm going to set this as my reference line. I want to keep this side of the line. Remember, it's not like Grider. You want to take away, you want to select the lines that you want to take away. You have to select the lines that you want to keep. I'm going to select this as my reference point, keep this side of the line. And if I were to press continue, Revit's going to know that there is an error going on. This floorboard is not plausible because of the fact that there is open spaces to the quote-unquote surface of the floorboard. So I have to close this floorboard, and to do that, I would have to close it by using just the line. And I'm just going to press this corner, and I'm going to finish my editing mode. And now it asks you, essentially, do we want to attach the walls that are below in level 1 to the bottom of this floor? And sometimes you don't want to attach, depending on the project. I want to attach this case, nothing too big. Attach, and in 3D we have, in 3D we have our floors now. This can be lowered. This is unconnected for some reason. I'm going to connect this to level 2. I don't know why that happened, but yeah, we have our floors now. Yeah. So now that we have our floors done, we want to proceed with the stairs. To do that, we should have our level 1 viewport active and ready to go. Under the architectural tool tab, we go to circulation and use the stair tool over here. And we can have different types of stairs, like a straight stair, a spiral stair, an L stair, or a U stair. In this case, for this tutorial, I will go with the basic default straight stair. You can change the width of your stair, the automatic landings, or practically some calculations for the riser height to sort of land automatically to level 2, I believe. Offset is sort of an offset from a certain, let's say, reference line like this line over here. Location line is practically the reference line that you want to create your stair. So like over here, if I were to have like a reference line / location line to my center, it's going to create your center line at the center of the stairs. I don't want that. I want to sort of have my reference line to the left of my stairs so that I can sort of have like a reference line for this left side of the wall. So I'm going to create this left stair over here. If I sort of want to have one offset, it'll automatically connect between levels. I think that's what's so brilliant about Revit. It's so quick and easy. But also you can have some, you can also change your dimensions of your stairs, like its step level, its riser height, but its riser height is also fixed to the levels of your project. So you got to be wary of that. And it's dependent to your number of risers, so be wary of that as well. I'm not going to really change anything to the levels. It's automatically connected. And I'm practically just going to move my stairs to a much more better and fixed offset, like 2 meters. And practically it for the stairs. Well, we do need an opening. I forgot to mention about that. Let's actually create an opening for this floorboard. So we have, well, we should finish creating our stairs. So we're selecting our floorboards right now. And to create that opening for the stairs, we select our floorboard, edit boundary, and just create this sort of line with our underlay settings on at level 1 over here. And just still attach. And now let's go to 3D view, and we sort of created that opening. Yes, railings are also automatic in Revit, which is amazing. And you can also edit the type of railings you want. Maybe I just want glass. Yeah, I want glass, because why not? So now that we have the stairs done, we kind of need doors and openings to our house, because what is a house without doors and openings? So I'm going to have my level 1 viewport active and have a main entrance door to this building. I'm going to go to architecture tool, and there's a door tool tab over here. And I can choose any type of door that I want. I'm not too sure if you guys have these families at your end, but maybe later in this tutorial I will show you how to access more door families, furniture, and all that. But I'm going to start maybe like a double door entrance for my main. I'm going to go to my level 1 plan. It's going to snap at the center over here. As you can see, its measurements. So its center is a 2.54. I can sort of flip the orientation of my doors as well. Do I want it this way, that way? Up to you. All that. I'm also going to add some windows. So it's always going to refer to the center line where the window peaks. So I always want it to go outside, so that it appears like it's poking outside the window. outside the center line. My bad, forgot to mention. So all that. I can have customizable windows like my walls through these selections of windows. Maybe I want that type of window. Actually, maybe I want to create my own window. So I'm actually going to duplicate this sort of group, this CAD block, and sort of tamper with its measurements. So I'm going to duplicate, I'm going to name it maybe a 2-meter window. That'd be cool. By 0.91. I believe this door's height is 2.11 actually, so I actually want to align it to my door. So I'm going to go 2.11 meters, and I can fix its height, maybe like 2.11. 2.1 meters in the height panel, and then width is already 0.91. I'm not going to change the width. I actually like that width. That was weird, but we can always change where we place our windows under the constraints panel here on the properties side. So the sill height, I want it to be at 0, and its head height to be 2.11, which it is. Essentially is, and it's aligned. That's why I sort of had that weird dimension of 2.11. Doesn't always have to be that, but I sort of wanted to align since this head height is at 2.11. And I can also change this window over here to my preset window and change its sill height to 0. You can add more windows to the second floor to your liking. Maybe I'll add a window to this backside. Yeah, I'll add a window to that backside, but a bigger window over here. Let's see in 3D view. Maybe I'm gonna also add my door over here where the stair is leading to. Let's go to architecture tool. Maybe a single door, not too much. Oh, that's a old door, my bad. Over here. So now let's see our 3D model. So we have that door. I'm just gonna keep this facade blank later for like maybe a curtain wall. Well, yeah, you can just keep adding windows to this project, whatever, play with it. It's yours. So I actually want to add furniture to this building, particularly the second floor where like maybe our bedroom is, and it's not too hard to do. So I go to insert. I load from Autodesk family under a load from library. And essentially what load from Autodesk family is this whole catalog of sort of fixtures of like CAD blocks. I like to sort of think families as like CAD blocks, but there are definitely more than that. But they're like sort of these, sort of this whole library of families that you can have from plumbing, stuff like sinks, toilets. In this case, I just want furniture, given the time that we have for this tutorial. I'm just going to select a bed. I'm just going to select this desk. I'm going to select this chair. I'm going to load. So to sort of access these furniture components that you just loaded in, you go to families. There should be a tab over here, families, and you scroll down to furniture. Right there. So I'm just gonna press that plus icon, have this sort of tab active, and then right click and then create instance. And I'm in my second floor plan. I'm just gonna put my bed over there in this corner. I'm just gonna, what do you call that? Add a furniture desk maybe in the front. Let's create instance, maybe over here. I'm also gonna add a desk, create instance. Oh wow, I already have a desk. I'm gonna add a chair. That's what I'm gonna do. Right in front. And as you can see, we have our furniture active in the 3D view. And yeah, you can do that to any other family like doors, windows, as I mentioned. When we sort of press that load Autodesk family, it's very helpful. Yeah, so I want to get to the roof of this project, but actually I want to sort of create a separate room for my bedroom at level 2 first. Let's go back to the wall. Actually, I want to use the align tool. So sometimes it's sort of hard to sort of snap it into place, like sort of like that sort of edge. So what I use is sort of the align tool when we sort of select our wall, which is this tool, I believe, right here above the move icon. It's in the controls. So you sort of set the boundary where it wants to be aligned, and you can just move the walls of the line of the walls to whatever that boundary is. So I also want to sort of attach this to my level 3 top constraint, and it will automatically go to level 3. So I will show you why we want to do that. I'll show you something cool when we sort of create our roof for it. So let's go to our level 3, have our underlay on. So we go to create a roof, we go to architecture tab, roof by footprint. You have created the roof, would you like to move it? I'd like to create my roof at level 3 because that's the very last level. And I can, maybe I just want a 400 millimeter roof, not too big on the measurements at the current moment. Set my boundary line at this corner over here and to that corner. And you see here there are triangles. Those triangles indicate the slope. So all slopes will meet in the middle. But I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to finalize my roof. As you can see, the slopes on this side, that side, that side, this side, it's all going to meet in the middle. You can have no slopes at all. You can just, get rid of the slope by pressing the line, that side, define slope. Maybe I just want a one-way roof, one-sided roof. I can change that slope to whatever angle which I want to. Maybe like a 20 degrees because this is kind of steep. Yes. And as you can see, our walls are not attached to the roof, but you can do something about that to attach that. And I want to go to my cube over here, which sort of has its fixed views of your project. So I'm going to go to my front view, and I'm going to select everything that is in that level. So this is like the front elevation of the house. I'm going to select everything in that level. And with that, I'm going to go to this tool called filter, which is right above. And it's sort of you can use this tool to filter out what components you want. So I'm going to check none. I don't want to select everything right now, but I just want to select my walls. I don't want to select my doors or my windows. I just want my walls. So I'm going to have that check mark. I'm going to apply. Okay. And as you can see in 3D view, I've only selected my walls. And with that, I'm going to attach these walls to this roof over here by going to the modify wall tab and press attach. And I'm going to attach top. So it's going to attach to the top to this roof over here. Right then and there, as you can see, it attaches all walls, even my interior wall right down the middle. So sort of see what's going on inside. You can also right click, hide in view, elements. As you can see, it's attaching my middle wall to the roof as well. To sort of reveal that hidden element as well, you can type in RH, reveal hidden elements, unhide view, elements, RH again, it's back. So we've now created our wall. Sort of want to have an offset actually to this wall, so I'm going to edit my footprint as well. Maybe have like a 0.5 meter offset. Who knows? I don't want that. As you can see, there is an offset now. I really don't like this facade that we have here, so I kind of want to have maybe like a glass facade that can maybe have some light enter in this space. So I'm going to go with this curtain wall empty and maybe set up my mullion grid system. That actually takes a lot of time, so I might not do that. You can definitely do that on your own free time for sure. But I'm going to change this wall into this exterior glazing, which already has its own system. Sometimes when you want to have your own freedom when creating those mullions, I definitely suggest using that type of curtain wall empty grid sort of create your own grid of mullions. So I'm going to go to architecture tool, add those mullions in the build tab. Just quickly add those. And I can obviously have my own mullions over here. Like I can change my own mullions to whatever I want. I'm just placing these mullions there. Now we have this sort of facade that light can enter in. And I need some railings for this level for sure. So I'm gonna go to the railings over here. I'm gonna use the center line of this wall as my reference, given the underlay property setting is on right now. And then finish. I don't like those railings, and my stair railings are already different. Actually, you can take these railings off. And just hide them. Or I'll just delete them. So this part needs a door, so I'm going to my level 2 structure door. Not being particular with the measurements at the current moment. I'm gonna go to my level 1. That is not structurally possible, so I'm gonna tamper with this base a bit, extend it up. Add some columns in this floor. Columns, architectural columns. Change it to maybe that. It's kind of big. Just aligning it. As you can see, it's snapping. Oh boy. Yeah, that's plausible just for now. I also want to add a door here, so I need to go to my architecture. Oh, I gotta go insert, because I don't have a curtain wall door. I already had searched that up. I'm just gonna select this. Go to level 2, and it's sort of hard to select some certain components of some certain fixtures in Revit. So what I do, it's sort of selecting the grid here, but I want to select this sort of glass itself, so I just press tab to sort of fix my selection. So I just want to select that sort of fixture, and then I'm gonna go to the double door types that I just recently uploaded, and I want to sort of, that's quite a big wall, so I also want to fix that curtain wall grid. I gotta unpin it, fix it to like 2. Definitely you can add a new, that's grid system here. It's quite, there should be a mullion there, I know, but for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just gonna keep it as is. I think that's it for this house. So we just finished modeling our house, and as you can see, this is our 3D view. You know, when we go to like our level 1 floor plan, we can see the cut on the floor plan at level 1. When we want to go to the elevation west view with this marker, it's already built in that. These are also built-in drawings that we can export later on in a later video. But whatever you model in one certain view is going to appear in your other views like elevation and plan, and it's such an efficient way in modeling in Revit. And I think that's it for the modeling tutorial, which is a quick modeling tutorial going through some sort of easy and common commands to sort of create and help you aid your projects like 201, 200, definitely 362, all those studios that are here in Daniels. Revit can be a lifesaver for those studios if you really get into it, and it's a great skill to learn as well. You want to go to File, Save As, Project, and you can just save it over here, put it in the desktop or whatever. But essentially you want to name it, and then you can always access it anytime and save. That's that.